Okay, gents, the show is all yours.
Fantastic. Mike, are you ready?
I am ready.
Gabe's ready in the back. Arif, are you ready?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Glass Half Sports. Today is June 30th, 2022. Glad to have you with us. As always, I'm one half of your hosting duties, Nick Huffman, as always, joined by my faithful co-host, Mike Mensing, and the triumphant return of the athletic journalist, Arif Hasan. How you been, man?
I've been good. How are you all?
Getting by. So we're into year two and trucking right along. I'm actually just excited for the holiday weekend. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, honestly.
Very much looking forward to the long weekend.
For sure.
Absolutely. So, Mike, what do we have for the folks today?
Yeah, as always, we have a big show. So we're going to start with talking to one of the friends of the show, Arif, about the Vikings and how they're looking with, 70 days until
70
NFL
days
football?
till NFL football.
And then we're going to go into an NBA update in the offseason. Some weird things are happening.
Post-draft.
Nick's extremely excited to talk UFC 276. Yeah. We're going to continue our NFL divisional predictions. Today, we're going to do the NFC West.
Yes.
And then we're going to finish the show with a hot corner if we have time.
Absolutely. Got a lot of things. Just it's kind of like a lull in sports, so we're trying to nitpick at everything that we can find for sure.
It's the dead zone in the sports calendar for sure.
Exactly. There's no basketball on right now. Hockey is done. Football is not yet at camp. So it's really just
dog days of baseball.
Yeah, the dog.
If you're super into the NHL draft, you got something going on if that's your thing. But yeah, otherwise,
the UFC really is just propping up the entire sporting world right now. I mean, to put it into context, and we'll talk about this later, Peacock is broadcasting baseball games without announcers, if that tells you where the state of sports is right now. Yeah, it's not a good look.
Wow. Without announcers.
We're going to talk about it. So I guess we can move right into it with do you want to check in on the Vikings? Obviously, you just came off, being with the team at OTAs, new regime, a lot of players back. It was a questionable offseason, but had some questions we want to fire your way and inform everybody that watches, through the lull. We haven't talked about the Vikings much recently. So I just kind of wanted to start with, what are you finding is the biggest, shift in atmosphere? Like, what has that been like as you've been able to get in around the players, around the coaches, around the team, with both Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell and Ed Donatel and Mike Smith and all these guys really having their chance to now have their culture installed, build a relationship with their players and things like that?
Yeah, it's a lot more vibrant, I think, this year than it was last year. The thing is, you can say this almost every time a new coaching staff comes in, and so you always have to figure out whether it's just because, hey, there's just been a change, things weren't working, and now we've got a kind of a fresh face, a new way of doing things. It's going to energize anybody. If you've been coming off of like some pretty frustrating seasons like the Vikings have, and so to try and separate that from what specifically Kevin O'Connell brings, what specifically the coaching staff brings, that's kind of difficult. But I think what I'm getting is that there is kind of a sense of freedom isn't maybe the right word, but like the idea that players have a lot more agency in kind of determining what they want to do on the field and the things that they feel that they're good at, the way that they can collaborate with the coaches. And I try not to use the word collaborate again, because it's a buzzword. Every new coaching staff uses the word collaboration, right? But there is some sense of players having input into kind of the way that the schemes play out, the way that the plays are kind of designed and kind of what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So I think that kind of infuses a level of energy. Now, I don't know if that's going to translate into like a good team or a bad team, but I think from an offseason perspective and the way that players are approaching the offseason, there's certainly a level of kind of enthusiasm that I didn't pick up on last year. Okay. So there certainly is that.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think everybody was a little worried living under the dark cloud of the Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman regime towards the beginning and end of whatever last year was.
Yeah,
so it's
and there was a really good sense last year that, especially after the season had gotten started, they had lost a couple of games that like this was it. Yeah. That there wasn't going to be kind of much beyond in terms of the Mike Zimmer era. Kind of that coaching staff is not going to stick around. And so there was kind of like a cloud hanging over everybody. Now, that didn't happen at training camp, though I don't think everybody was as enthused then as they are now. So kind of the mood got worse, but it didn't start at like an amazing place either.
Right. That's all. I mean, it's good to start ahead of as far ahead as you can, right? At least emotionally or mentally or whatever the case may be, because it's the inches in the NFL, right? It's minute differences that could be the difference between an 0-16 season and an 8-8 season, or an 8-8 season and whatever,
being able to execute that extra rep, being able to kind of approach another play with a set of eyes that is kind of willing to pick up on details as opposed to just kind of go through the motions. Just having that level of enthusiasm to kind of see where everybody's going, have an enthusiasm to teach other players around you. Like those are all small differences that can definitely add up by the time the season starts.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, I actually have a question expanding on that article that you wrote about Kirk Cousins, and may he not be an elite quarterback in the NFL. So I'm very much a guy who can watch football and kind of tell you exactly what's wrong. This corner should have shaded outside, stuff like that. But when it comes to the exact numbers and the analysis of the numbers, I'm not great. So I'm basically going to tell you what I've been seeing and reading, and I want you to expand on that from your perspective, if you will. So what I've been seeing is that in the KOC system, in the Rams system, Stafford was the most efficient quarterback in the NFL last year from drop back passes. Kirk was about 14th or 15th.
So this is eliminating play action passes.
Correct.
Okay.
And then if you flip that and look at just play action passes, Kirk was number 1 in the NFL. So I'm expecting our offense to definitely be more drop back centric. What do you think that is that a good thing for Kirk moving forward, or does that lean more into your argument that he isn't an elite quarterback? He needs a run game and time and play action to be effective.
So the thing is, Kirk is a really good drop back passer. I don't think there's any question about that. His ability to do pre-snap diagnosis, his ability to confirm post-snap, that's up there with like the rest of the NFL. And his ability to kind of figure out what side of the field he needs to attack based off of the coverage he's seeing. All of that is something that he'll be able to kind of use in this new system in a way where if we're getting kind of better schemes tactically on offense, he'll be able to take advantage of that, put up better numbers and so on.
Better concepts and easier to read stuff like that. Sure.
So the question for me isn't whether or not Kirk Cousins has the ability to execute standard plays or non-standard plays, or whether or not he relies on play action, because I don't think he relies on play action. I mean, there are some good quarterbacks out there that I think you can say do rely on play action. I think, for example, Ryan Tannehill is a really good example.
Oh, he's the first name that came to mind when you said that.
Right. And, I think if Arthur Smith has his way, Marcus Mariota is going to be that too. Yeah. But, certainly if you ask Ryan Tannehill to be a drop back passer, 500 of his 600 dropbacks in a season are going to be drop back passes, then you're probably asking for problems.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's really the case for Kirk. I think his efficiency his play action efficiency is always going to be better than his drop back efficiency.
I believe the statistic that was used in the like survey or article or whatever that I read was estimated points per attempt.
Expected points per
Yes.
So his EPA per play is always going to be better off of play action than it is on standard passes. But if you can improve the efficiency of those standard drop back passes, which I think the scheme can do, he's going to be in a really good spot. I don't know if he's going to take the number 1 on dropbacks or whatever like that, but I think that you're going to see an increase probably in his aggregate statistics. So his aggregate expected points per dropback, his aggregate yards per attempt, his passer rating, all that. Those, I think, are not really a huge question I have with Cousins. For me, the issue with Cousins is how likely is he to be in a particular game the best quarterback on the field.
Okay.
And if he is against an average quarterback or a below average quarterback, I think that those odds are really good. But I think as soon as you put him up against a quarterback that is generally just better at a number of things. Mahomes, Rodgers, etc. Those odds plummet. And I think that's kind of the difference between Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins, because I think before last season, a lot of people would have said they're relatively equivalent, or maybe that Kirk Cousins is better than Matthew Stafford, whatever. To me, they're kind of in the same tier of quarterback, but the difference is that Matthew Stafford on a particular day can just turn it on. Right. He's a pretty volatile quarterback, and for somebody who's not the best quarterback in the NFL or not one of the top 3, being volatile is good if you're good enough to make it into the playoffs, because you need to have a chance to be the best quarterback on the field in a playoff field. If you put Kirk Cousins up against the top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL and they play a game, the likelihood that Kirk Cousins is going to end up as the best quarterback on the field in that game is really low. Whereas for Matthew Stafford, an equivalently talented quarterback, those odds are a little bit higher. So that's kind of Cousins' inability to kind of play out of structure, his ability to take advantage of things like blown coverages, his ability to kind of make some room and scramble to create extra plays, his ability to kind of determine, hey, if I take a hitch step here, the play doesn't call for a hitch step. It's a 5-step drop with 1 hitch, and I'm going to get the ball out. If I take another hitch, if it's 5 plus 2, then I'll be able to get another open guy on the post, whereas normally I wouldn't. That kind of intuition isn't really present in his play. Playing out of structure doesn't have to mean always scrambling, finding extra room, taking 3 seconds on a drop back that's normally supposed to take 2.5. It's not always doing Mahomes stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's doing stuff where it's like the play is designed one way, and if I, in the middle of the play, decide that I need to do something else in order to make that play more efficient or effective, I'm going to do it. And he doesn't have that.
Okay.
So there's that, and then there's also the fact that I think in high leverage situations where you need a lot of situational awareness, where you need to know where the sticks are, where you need to know what the clock is, when you need to know how many timeouts you have left, that's not an area where I think he excels. Like if you take a look at what he does in 2-minute situations, he's much more likely to take the middle of the field when it's wide open. Because the defense is letting him, then I think a lot of other quarterbacks in the same situation, knowing, hey, that throw to the sideline deep down the field has a low percentage chance of making it. But if I miss, the clock stops, and if I make it, the clock stops.
Yeah.
And that's more important than getting the next 20 yards when I'm down at my own 20, but the clock keeps going.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my issue with Cousins.
A la like Dak Prescott in that game last year where, the run up the pass up the middle and they go to spike the ball. I would agree with you. Sometimes I think Kirk Cousins is about as as a cranky toddler at a doctor's office. Sometimes you just have to be quiet and you're not going to get that. So that leads me to the question about a narrative I've been hearing pretty much all offseason, which is Kirk has stepped up. Kirk is showing new leadership, new signs of being the head guy in the locker room, and he's an improved quarterback. We've heard nothing but positive things from KOC and Kwesi and even some of the other individuals in the media. What is driving that narrative right now?
Let's just to put that in context, we heard the same thing about Carson Wentz in Indianapolis before the season started.
Okay, that's fair.
So
That's super fair.
So
It gives me zero confidence, but it is a fair thing to say.
So we always hear that about a quarterback that the team has committed to when a new coach comes in.
Yeah.
That this quarterback has stepped up, that they're exhibiting new leadership, that they're doing all these things right. I'm not saying that those aren't true. I'm saying is that we should take these reports with a grain of salt, right? I remember that with Christian Ponder in 2013, right? Like it's not that useful to hear that. And I kind of want to know what that means for Cousins when he takes leadership and how is that different than before? In some ways, I think it could be very different because I think Cousins was restricted in his ability to take command of the offense, not because he couldn't change plays to the line of scrimmage. He did have that responsibility last year, but rather he can be in command of what that offense is supposed to look like from day one.
Okay.
Whereas I think before, under Mike Zimmer, there was always a constraint of what that offense was supposed to look like, and Mike Zimmer communicated that to the offensive coordinator, and then the offensive coordinator worked with Kirk Cousins to make an offense kind of fit what both of them wanted. Whereas I think now, if Kirk Cousins wants something, there's a good chance he's going to be able to get it. Now, obviously, he has to communicate with Kevin O'Connell about what that looks like, and if O'Connell disagrees, they'll have a discussion. But certainly, Kirk's input is going to matter, I think, a lot more. So I think from that perspective, that's going to matter a lot. And I know Kirk values that a lot. It's something that he's indicated, the article that you brought up about Kirk, that I published in, I think, February. That's one of the things that stuck out to me when I was kind of doing research for this piece is how important having a leadership role and security in that leadership role is to him. I think the one anecdote that really stuck out is after Kirk won a game taking over for RG3, who was injured, of course, Dan Snyder, the owner of Washington, football team.
Yep.
Trying to be careful, right? Dan Snyder comes down, and everybody in the locker room is celebrating what Kirk did, right? I mean, a backup quarterback coming in, executing a win, putting the team on his back, throwing good numbers, like doing all the things that you want him to do.
Yep.
Dan Snyder comes down, walks right past Kirk Cousins, and goes to RG3 in the trainer's room, right? And assures RG3 that the team is his.
Yeah.
Like, that helps nobody, right?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of sticks in Kirk Cousins' mind. And it's kind of always where he was, right? So he was the fifth string quarterback in high school. He was the fifth string quarterback at Michigan State.
Yep.
And he had to work his way up.
Drafted 4th round.
Right. He was drafted in the 4th round. He had to beat out Nick Foles, I think, who had to transfer to Arizona State.
Yep.
He's always been in a position of precarity where he's not had a ton of security, which is why he didn't like the franchise tag situation in Washington, right? And so one of the first things he said when he came to Minnesota, and they gave him a fully guaranteed deal, which is why the average per year from the Jets was not worth as much to him as the fully guaranteed contract with the Vikings, is the security that he had in being the leader of the team and being and not being forced to, wonder if he's stepping on anybody's toes, not being, put into a position where he feels like if he says something or puts a plan in place or has a vision for what he thinks the team should look like, that someone's going to countermand him. That's very important to him, and it gives him confidence to continue being that guy. And I think that while he had the security in Minnesota, not having the control over the offense like he does now is going to change the way his confidence is going to express himself, like in the huddle or in meeting rooms or when he gets to speak up during team meetings and stuff like that. So all of that I think is relevant and important, and I think that that's probably true. I'm always careful when it comes to reports about a quarterback exhibiting new leadership.
And totally fair.
Well, and actually that leads right into my second question. Everything from Vikings camp has been positive collaboration. They're working collectively. Like, it leads a fan
going 17-0.
Exactly.
Well, we went through the schedule. We know that's not true.
So my question to you is, so I was kind of thinking, there's a few position groups or, players that could be that Achilles heel.
Sure.
From your perspective, what do you think will be that grain of salt that makes us go maybe 11-6 throughout the year?
Right. So on offense, there's not many. Right. I think wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, everyone's really happy with. Right. Yep. I think the depth beyond 3, everyone's pretty happy with. I think at tight end 1, we're pretty optimistic about Irv Smith. Maybe that's an area where Irv Smith doesn't develop, and now you're relying on someone like a Zach Davidson or a Johnny Munt or a Ben Ellefson to kind of carry things, and you're not going to have confidence in that. So there's a possibility there. But I think everyone's really worried about right guard. Okay. Right.
Yep.
And
that was one of.
Yeah. Like. We don't know that Christian Darrisaw left tackle is good, but we're somewhat confident.
Yeah.
We're reasonably confident that Ezra Cleveland's a pretty decent left guard.
He's competent.
Yeah.
Right. Brian O'Neill, I think, is the one we're absolutely confident in. Yep. He's just a good player.
Yeah.
And so you've got right guard, we don't know who that is. And center, we know that that's not good, right? We know that Garrett Bradbury is just not a very good player.
Since when?
Hey, if he doesn't have to pass block, he's okay.
If you've got him out going into the second level or on a screen pass, he's up there, right? Maybe about 10% of plays. Yeah. So right guard and center are those areas where, pressure is going to come up with the middle. Teams are going to attack it. Like when Zadarius Smith was playing against the Vikings, very often they would try to get him over the right guard or over the center to attack that area where the Vikings were weak. And we're going to see that again. So on offense, that's about the area that you're looking at, the interior offensive line that's going to keep the offense back. Now, I think that that's going to be overblown over the course of the season. And I don't mean that I'm confident in the position. I'm not. I think more that the importance of that position to how that offense functions overall is not as big as it's going to seem.
Okay.
And so we might be in a situation where, Kirk Cousins is trying to lead, the Vikings down the field. You're down 2. All you need is a field goal. They're at the 40-yard line, and then, he gets sacked up the center, right? And you can say, well, the right guard was the most important, position in that game. But, they scored 35 points in that game. Right? The offense is fine.
The A-gap,
yeah.
Right, exactly. And so it's easy to focus on one instance or one situation. But I think that overall that's not going to be as big a deal as it's going to seem like over the course of the season. It's going to come back to bite me, I'm sure. Defense is kind of the area where we're really concerned, right? Like if there is an injury at edge rusher, I'm not confident that there's going to be anybody that has the ability to step up and be a starting quality edge rusher if Zadarius Smith or Daniel Hunter go down. And they're not the world's healthiest edge rushers, right?
No.
And so that's what my most recent story at The Athletic is actually about, is about how likely is it that we're going to see, Zadarius Smith and Daniel Hunter, A, perform at a high level because it's been a while, and B, stay healthy for a whole season. So that's a big question, but that I think is kind of, if that's the first thing we're worried about, we're probably in a good place because I'm worried about nickel corner. I think Shandon Sullivan's a very good player. I'm worried that Patrick Peterson may not be able to hold up on the outside.
Yeah.
I'm worried that, Andrew Booth might not be ready right away. I'm not as confident in Cameron Dancer as a lot of people are. So that cornerback group kind of worries me a lot.
Staying with the secondary, how confident are you with Scene?
Pretty confident.
You are.
Okay, good. I don't know if you watched the absolute meltdown that me and Mike had during the draft over that pick, but there's a lot of people that it seems like there's extremists. There's I absolutely love this kid. He's the future of the defense. And then there's people like, what an inept front office do we have? Why the hell did we draft this guy at the back end of the first round? And me and Mike during the draft fell far to one side of that.
I'm now
so.
definitely more towards the middle. But
So he's somebody I didn't do a ton of pre-draft research on because I didn't think the Vikings would draft a safety.
Right.
But what I did see of him, I really liked a lot. And then when I kind of dug into it a little bit deeper after the Vikings drafted him, I ended up liking the player quite a bit more. I think that he's a very good player. How much that's going to help the Vikings given the constraints they have and the positional needs they have, that I think is a fair and open question because, yeah, I think he's better than Cameron Bynum. Is how much better than he is over Bynum worth it versus, getting that top? I don't know, right? If you got like a top-tier guard or a top-tier corner there instead. So that's that question. But, if we're just going to evaluate the safety position, I think that they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Linebacker, I think they're in a good spot. I think they have decent depth there too, given, who they drafted. Plus they've got, somebody between Blake Lynch and Troy Dye and Chaz Surratt. One of them is going to be a decent backup as well. The defensive tackle group, I think, is going to be fairly strong against the run. I don't know that they've got pass rush capability. Maybe Armin Watts steps up. Maybe Jalen Twyman.
I was going to say, Twyman coming back, his comps coming out were Aaron Donald-esque almost.
Well, he drove that because that's who he idolized, right? The issue is the last time he played football, those comps were kind of fair, but then he essentially took the year off and changed his body in a way that I think really hurt him in that capacity.
Okay.
So if you look at his pro day workouts, they are the complete opposite of, a pass rushing tackle or an Aaron Donald type.
Okay.
Really great bench press, really awful everything else. Not great agility, not great burst, not great explosion, all of the stuff that characterizes some of the stuff that makes Aaron Donald an elite athlete. That's not who he is. And so the Vikings, when they drafted him, gave him essentially an ultimatum. In the same way they told Hercules Mataafa, like, hey, you need to get up to 285. They told Twyman he needed to get down to 290. You're at like 360. That's not acceptable.
That's large.
Right. And so the role that we envision for you and the role that you were successful in college is going to require you to get back to the body shape that you were in 2019.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. And so, here are your weight targets by every 2 weeks. And you have to send us a picture of you at the scale. Right. And that was a really important part of making sure. And then, of course, he visits home. Unfortunately, he gets shot, and he has to go on the NFI injured reserve list.
Yep.
And so we don't get an opportunity to kind of see what that offseason conditioning program looked like for him or how it actualizes. And now he's a bit of an afterthought. But when he was good in college, he was a really phenomenal pass rusher. And so if you have the ability to unlock that, you're in a really good spot. One kind of dark horse there, too, that I'm kind of interested in is James Lynch, who played a 4 technique-ish role in college for Baylor and led the FBS in pressures from that position. He is a pretty good pass rusher, but the Vikings turned him into a nose tackle last year. And just like with Jalen Twyman, once you change your body in one direction, there's no guarantee you'll be able to change your body to back it to what it was. So if they can kind of unlock who that James Lynch was, now you've got a couple of opportunities of guys that might have that kind of pass rush potential. Now, I don't think it's likely that between Armin Watts, James Lynch, and Jalen Twyman that you're going to end up with more than one guy that's going to end up becoming an asset. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
But it's nice that you've got a couple of shots. Plus, they drafted the 5th-round guy from Minnesota, Odomewo. He was an edge rusher, but obviously he's going to be kicking inside to that defensive tackle position. That's going to be interesting, but he is so raw that it might be a little bit before we kind of see him on the field. But pass rushing from the interior is kind of a concern of mine, and secondary work from the cornerbacks, that's a concern of mine.
Okay, which is fair. And so before we let you get out of here, I did want to ask, what's your hottest take for the team coming up this year? I wanted to get something where you're like, it's in the back of your mind. If this lands, this would make you a lot of money in Vegas style type, confession here on the show. And then what do you think the true ceiling for the Vikings is this year? Let's say everything does go right. Kirk takes a step forward. Dalvin stays healthy. Daniil and Zadarius Smith are somewhere near the top of the league in sacks. That's what they have the potential to do when they're healthy. The corners are sustainable. I'm sure Justin Jefferson's going to shine in this defense. Adam Thielen stays healthy. Sure. What is the ceiling for the Vikings as well?
The ceiling, I think, and this is probably a frustratingly low ceiling, but I don't love that defense. But the ceiling, I think, is 12 wins.
Okay.
Which is not like...
I would agree.
That's where we had them.
Yeah. anybody would be happy with 12 wins. If that's the best they can do, maybe that's a little bit frustrating. But 12 wins, I think, is the ceiling. Obviously, you make the playoffs, and with 12 wins, you're in the conversation, right?
Yeah.
You can win a couple of games, now you're in the Super Bowl, right? So I think the ceiling is 12 wins. If you've got, if the injuries occur at places where injuries can occur a little bit more, if your key players stay healthy, if all of the stuff we're thinking about the scheme stays true. My hottest take about the Vikings, that's because I've put out a lot of hot takes, right? Like
Fair.
The article that we just pulled up, Kirk Cousins will never be an elite quarterback. Like
pretty hot take.
Is that not common knowledge at this point? Like I draw comparisons all the time.
Will never?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins to me is Carson Palmer. He might have a chance to win a Super Bowl when somebody's not paying him $35 million because of the talent they're going to be able to put around him. Like that has always been what I think of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I call him a bowl of milk.
Ranch.
Right.
Bowl of ranch.
Bowl of ranch. That's good. Man, the hottest take. Kirk Cousins. How about this? Kirk Cousins will be the #1 fantasy quarterback and still not make a Pro Bowl.
Oh, okay.
You know what?
That's a really hot take.
That's a really hot take.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got all the weapons to do it, right?
Yes.
I think JJ goes for 2,000 yards this year in this offense if everything goes according to plan.
I guess Cup went for like 1,700, 1,750. So I could see that. Yeah.
So, I mean, Mike, you got anything else for him?
I don't. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely,
Enjoy
man.
your long weekend, man.
Yeah, enjoy the
sure.
holiday. Let everybody know real quick where they can find you on Twitter and where they can find some of these hot takes, obviously, on The Athletic. So they have some reading material for over the weekend.
Sure. Find me at The Athletic, theathletic.com /author/Arif Hasan. Find me on Twitter at Arif Hasan NFL, ARIF HASAN NFL. Most my hot takes are just going to be on Twitter. I don't hide on Twitter. So you can find that there. I'm also doing a series with my co-Vikings writer, Chad Graff, over at The Athletic. We're doing kind of the biggest questions facing the Vikings. The one about Kirk Cousins just went out, so I substantiate that the fantasy version of that take that I just put out there. And we've got a couple more coming up, like about the secondary, best case, worst case scenario, stuff like that. So go check that out and hit me up on Twitter. I'm pretty active there.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Leader in the Case Kukas fan club, leaderboard and leading, plate appearances, so to speak, here at Glass Half Sports. Thanks for joining us as always, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Make sure you guys go check him out. And we'll get back to you here before the season, I'm sure, and check in with everything that's going on with the Vikings and, cross our fingers that maybe this year is the year we just make it to the playoffs at this point. So
sounds good.
Absolutely,
Thanks
man.
again, man.
Take care.
I appreciate it.
All right. So, Mikey.
Yeah. We got to talk about the NBA now.
Yes, absolutely. The NBA is where we got to go. It's draft season.
Yep.
We have, the draft happened. Kyrie situations, obviously. NBA free agency is right around the corner. I actually think that kicks off today, if I am not mistaken.
Sounds about right.
So let's start.
There are NBA players that don't even know when free agency is, if I'm being honest with you. So
I mean, most of them are at home just smoking weed on their couch until.
Wait, I got traded? What?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But let's start with the Minnesota Timber. You want to call them the Wolves or the Puppies after the draft?
Well, I mean, they got to be the Wolves right now, right?
I would think so.
So Minnesota Timberwolves draft, the interesting draft. Maybe not necessarily exactly what the fans were thinking that they would do.
So NBA draft, this is probably the first year I've watched the NBA draft. Okay. They need to figure that thing out. It is not
a great watch.
It's impossible to follow. Mm-hmm. There's a pick here, possible trade here. There's this here. There's this here. You know what I mean? So it's just like I woke up the next morning still not knowing. Me and you kind of had a conversation on this, on who the team had actually selected, which is.
I did tell Nick, I was like, no, we actually got him.
Yeah, so I was like, that's weird. And I watched the entire draft. Right. So, but for the Timberwolves to walk away with Walker Kessler from Auburn and Wendell Moore Jr. from Duke.
Correct.
As their two pieces. Immediate thoughts on, let's start with the Walker Kessler pick.
Interesting.
Yes.
Maybe a little high as far as like when we picked him in the draft.
Sure.
However, one of our biggest needs was
a true five.
A true defensive five.
Yeah.
With him on the floor at the same time as Cat, you can bump Cat down to the 4. Walker Kessler can really take over as a defensive center.
And on the offensive glass.
Yeah. Good. I would say above average rebounder. His
video game.
His wingspan is absolutely insane. And then the biggest thing for Timberwolves fans who may not be familiar with him is he averaged 4.3 blocks per game last year and only averaged playing 26 minutes a game. That's a block every 6 minutes he's on the floor, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, his NBA conversion stats per 25 minutes, I think, came to 2 blocks per 25 minutes played in the NBA is kind of what they're thinking.
7-1. I'm excited to see him. The only thing that I don't appreciate about his game currently that he can work on is he doesn't run the floor super well. And who we were last year, we were definitely kind of the pack that ran, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to be kind of a thorn in our side because of the way he plays, but he can fix that as well.
Yeah, so I think with Walker Kessler, I think one of the biggest things is this is protection for Cat. Like if I'm going back to, okay, what does he truly bring? Like I understand that he's probably going to be an elite rebounder and defender, right? But when we struggled in the playoffs, what does he bring to the floor that maybe gets us to the next step? Now, do I think he deserves to get 25 to 30 minutes a night right away? Yeah, I actually do. And here's the reason why. I think last year, Cat getting into foul trouble and disrupting the flow of our offense and our rotation on defense is what hurt us in big spots. So our ability to allow a lot of that post work where Cat would kind of just be like a bull in a china shop and get charges. And then on defense where he can't keep his hands straight up and be an effective defender. If you subtract even 2 fouls per night from Karl Anthony Towns and he stays in some of these ball games late, does that earn you extra wins? Absolutely. So there's a external impact that he'll be able to have. As far as him running the floor, I do think he runs the floor better than most people give him credit for. I was watching some of his highlights from Auburn. Is he kind of a big, lumbering, cumbersome 7'1"? Yeah, but he's a young kid. He's going to grow into that body and probably get a little bit more athletic, right? So I think he's going to be an impact player right away. I think having him also with some of the other guys we have at the 5 allows us some trade value if we wanted to go get a point guard later on down the line. Now with Wendell Moore Jr., I think this is doubly light, zero calorie Anthony Edwards. I look at his game and I go, you know what? When Ant isn't on the floor, how do you get that same physical presence that can at times stretch the floor with his shot and is great at attacking the rim and putting pressure on opposing interior defenders? And that's what you're going to get out of him.
I like the Anthony Edwards
comparison,
but honestly, the Grizzlies series that we had, and then watching this guy, it's Desmond Bain like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like similar skill set again, like you were saying, very physical, high energy.
Yes.
Good shooter.
Yes.
Maybe not amazing, but he has the ability and the body type to do pretty much anything on the floor.
Right.
So
good. He's going to be a great rotational piece. And Coach K obviously coaches good defense. I don't think when's the last time we had a Duke guy come out and you go, oh, the glaring holes on the defensive side of the ball. Just not the case, right? And assuming that we are going to retain Patrick Beverly this year and he's going to get to play alongside Anthony Edwards, and there is kind of like a defensive minded culture that is being installed in Minnesota. I think he's going to fit in really well. I think his upside, to be quite honest, if he continues to develop his shot, he grows into his body, he grows into the role, is 6th man of the year-esque. Do I think he's ever going to be a consistent starting 5 player? No. Can he be the best guy off your bench for an entire season? Absolutely. So, I give them a really good grade for the draft. The only issue I had here, and me and you talked about this earlier this week, was not only allowing Ty Washington to slip past you. You alluded to it with where we drafted Walker Kessler. But then to allow him to get to Memphis, a team that already with their athleticism and the way they share the ball and the way they play as a team hurt you in the playoffs, needing a point guard was a big mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's kind of my conclusion of this draft as well. Did we draft well? Yes. Could we have drafted better?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's odd. Do you think that this improves their playoff chances going into next year? Obviously, this is way too early. We got to see how the team looks and things of that nature. But
I would be disappointed if the Wolves aren't at least the 5 seed in the West.
Okay,
year,
that's a fair. I think that's a fair waterline to draw.
Yeah, you were the 7 this year. You are bringing back young players that now have playoff experience, bringing in more reinforcements from the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Now-
have to be better.
Now, quickly before we move on, I sent you and Gabe an article yesterday. Did you get the chance to read it about this potential trade that is coming? And I wanted to really quickly just get your opinion on if you think this is a better fit for what we currently have as a team, with the reports that the Wolves and the Chicago Bulls may be in a trade for D'Angelo Russell, and what I think they have a first round pick in there. I don't think that's really what the Bulls need. They're in like win now mode. I think quite honestly, what they're gonna want is they need a 5, like a true defending, kind of like what we needed this year coming through the draft, where we give up like a Naz Reid or as Jake Layman, the guy who's the tall white guy that got like next to no playing time last year on the Wolves.
That is Layman, but he's not a 5 either. But he's like 4.
Yeah. So like trading away a couple of pieces instead of giving away the first round pick, unburdening yourself with the D'Angelo Russell thing, and then bringing in Lonzo Ball to be a defensive presence. I like him on defense. I like the way that he distributes the basketball. And then he's kind of a spot up shooter versus a guy that's going to develop or create his own shot in big moments. As I know, everybody thinks a lot of that role is going to be given to Cat and Ant moving forward.
Yeah, I don't hate the move. I just don't. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of what the Ball brothers bring.
Come on. You can't deny the guy was one of the most efficient point guards on the floor last year when healthy.
I'm not denying that.
Okay.
I'm saying that.
You just don't want
hate
the circus
but,
that comes with it.
Exactly. This is Minnesota, man. We're conservative. Just like go.
But
go dribble the basketball.
Lonzo has pretty much detached himself from his dad's shadow. I mean, did you hear anything about it in Chicago this last year?
No, but I wasn't living in Chicago this past year either.
Well, I mean, we weren't living in LA, or we weren't living in New Orleans, but when it was a problem, it was a problem.
No,
okay. But it was a problem when it was a problem.
I
And it didn't seem to be a problem.
It gives me a sour taste in my mouth. You wanted my answer. Like I wouldn't hate the trade. I'd still root for him, but not gonna like get his jersey or anything if he does come here.
Oh, I'm definitely getting his jersey. A
Yeah,
lime
you
green
would.
ball jersey.
You
Let's
would.
go. Let's go. I'm all about it. Any other thoughts on the way the Wolves drafted? The way everything's turned out?
I'm gonna give Connolly the benefit of the doubt because I trust the direction that they're going in.
Yeah.
Is what I'll say.
That's
So
fair.
not necessarily what I would have done. However,
Nothing negative to say.
let's this is definitely a situation where you have to give him a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Can I cut in on a quick question with that?
Sure.
You just made me think about what has happened. So now that the Ball brothers, whatever, are established NBA players, like
Mhm.
remember when they came out, their dad was like
All
a
over,
huge issue, right?
Yep.
What happened to him? Like, I mean, I don't hear anything.
He's
of
just
it in
kind of
media.
running his own league now, and being a business guy.
Okay.
He's not a ton in the media. I think both of the sons at this point have kind of said like, "Hey, in order for us to succeed, we need you to take a back seat."
Yeah.
Plus, I think he got his clout, I guess.
Yeah.
From them.
Yeah.
And now, he's doing different things because people know who he is.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just so weird because he was so present as a whatever. So,
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. So there's that. And then let's talk about the unrestricted free agents that we have coming up. Could be a little bit of a crazy offseason in the NBA. I know we don't talk basketball much, but there are definitely some key guys that could potentially be on the move, with the likes of Bradley Beal, who has decided to opt out, Zach LaVine, obviously. No reports one way or the other of if he's going to return to Chicago or if he's going to want to leave. Malik Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Yusuf Nurkic, Robinson up in New York. Mike, your thoughts on any of these guys and what they should be doing, heading into free agency here?
Not anything specifically, honestly, just like off of the trade for Lonzo.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the guy who I did want
Zach LaVine.
was just traded.
Oh,
day
DeJounte
ago.
Murray. Yeah.
That's who I wanted.
Well, they
Yeah.
gave up and the Wolves could not have given up that much to get him.
What did the Hawks give up?
I think it was a pick and it was a couple firsts.
It was, I think, 2 firsts,
Yeah.
but
and
it
a
wasn't
player.
and 1 player.
And the Wolves couldn't have given that up.
If
right
you
now.
do, though, you win right now. Like,
Do you
you're-
win right now, though?
Yes, you're the 3 seed in the West, in my opinion.
All right. That's fair.
Zach LaVine needs to find somewhere that he can basically grow. So he needs to go to.
And he's done nothing but grow. Like who he has become in Chicago is who the Wolves
Like
thought
with
he
Marcus
should have
Smart
been.
leaving Boston, That's not a horrible. Like, I mean, he can really bring a little bit more dynamic. Like, he fits more with Boston and what they do, I feel like, than Marcus Smart. Yeah, Marcus Smart brings that defensive tenacity, but offensively, he doesn't do a whole lot. And I think that showed in the finals.
Okay. I think Levine fits really well in Miami or Portland. I think are two teams that
I would agree with that.
If Zach LaVine has that high flying intensity, he is a great replacement as Jimmy ages to instill athleticism. Like, if I think we can all admit right now that the Heat are a little old in certain spots, right? Like, they've got good players, but Kyle Lowry's not getting any younger. Some of their guys on the bench are aging. You put Zach LaVine in there, you move Tyler Hero, at some point you can have Tyler Hero, 6th man of the year, Zach LaVine, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo all on the floor at the same time. That's
nasty.
That's a pretty nasty rotation, and they have the cap space to do it. Same thing up in Portland. You talked about who's the point guard that's been playing in Dame's absence.
Oh, is it CJ something?
It's not CJ, but they've got a really good young point guard. You get Dame back. You can play Zach LaVine at the 2, even the 3. You know what I mean? That's a really potent scoring offense under Chauncey Billups as well. I think that team would do well. Otherwise, I think he kind of has to return to Chicago. I think those are his best options at this point.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad thing for him to just return to Chicago,
especially
Simmons.
with Anthony Simons or whatever.
Simons, yep.
So
they also have Chris Dunn.
Yep,
remember Chris Dunn, man?
I do remember Chris Dunn. So there's some options for him. Bradley Beal has come out and said that he's going to opt out of his final year in Washington. Now he can either get the Supermax in Washington, which is like $284 million over 6, or he can look at offers from contenders. So what contending team should be taking a look at Bradley Beal right now, Mike?
He's more of a 2 though, isn't he?
He is. He's a solid 2. He can create his own shot, but he's a great spot up shooter. You know where I think he should go? In absence of the departure, or with the departure of Jalen Brunson, I think if he goes to Dallas, that's a great fit for him. That gives Luka a spot up shooting, almost like a Ray Allen type option in that offense. Otherwise, he's going to get an offer from the Lakers. He's going to get an offer from the Knicks. There are some.
Who's the spot up? Who's the 2 for the Sixers right now?
Good question. I'm not 100% sure on who their 2 is. I know.
I guess their 2 is James Harden.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was more. I guess
a 3.
He is technically, yeah. He's technically a
right.
2.
And
then they have Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle. Yeah. I mean, he needs to go to someone like that though. Like with a dominant big, I think helps him a ton.
Yeah. So he'll listen to options. Otherwise, the Supermax going back to Washington's not a bad gig.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the entire free agency, like, to me, I don't really care anymore because the big names that like we were expecting to drop and bomb.
Oh, we're going to talk about them here in a minute.
Let's talk about them here now.
Well, I want to talk about one final player real quick.
Who's that?
Which is this Miles Bridges.
Miles Bridges?
Or Malik Bridges in Charlotte, the Hornets. Pretty much saying, hey, offer me the max or I'm leaving. And I'm going to make a short prediction here. His contract will let you know whether or not LaMelo is going to stay through his rookie deal or through the end of his or after his rookie deal is up. If Michael Jordan lets the only other legit scoring option go as Gordon Hayward gets even older.
It is Miles Bridges. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It will be a great indicator to what, you will see LaMelo's decision be down the line here.
Well, I have some news for you, sir.
Yes.
10 hours ago, NBA player Miles Bridges arrested for domestic violence.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, LaMelo's out.
I tried to tell you we should just move on, but.
Oh, you didn't know that before this?
I did.
You're a liar.
I was like half and half because there's 3 guys with the last name Bridges.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's him.
All right. Well, fair enough. Other than that, let us know what you guys think some of these big names should be doing. I think Jalen Brunson pretty obviously is just going to be heading to New York as badly as he should stay. New York's going to offer him an absolute bag after what they saw out of him in the playoffs. So the Knicks will get another point guard that won't pan out because he doesn't have any help. And then we can talk about the guys you wanted or everyone thought was going to be be hitting the market for NBA free agency and Kyrie and Kevin Durant with the Brooklyn Nets debacle. This has become.
I just want death to super teams. So like I was looking forward to Kyrie and KD like both leaving Brooklyn and Brooklyn just being in the sewers of the NBA for 20 years.
Kyrie coming back.
Just being honest, like it's kind of just trashy to me. Like you have teams like Charlotte and I don't know, Minnesota.
Hey, we kind of have a
like-
super team right now. Cat, Ant.
Yeah, but it's a self-built through pain
Right.
super team.
Gotcha.
Then you get teams like this who just go spend $250 million and get the 2 best players in the league. It's like,
Right.
that's so dumb.
Gotcha.
And you had 13 fans in the stands last year. Now you have 18,000 who say that they're huge Brooklyn Nets fans. No, you're
Correct.
not.
Correct.
Stop it.
All right, Mike's trying to get us banned from more fan bases as if the Miami Dolphins and the LeBron.
There isn't a fan base in Brooklyn. Are you kidding me? Once these two leave, there won't be anybody there.
We'll see. But
Has that or team, have they kind of ruled yet? Like, are they making big money? Is it a success? Because I feel the same way in a way where it's like
their stadium's full.
Okay.
Their arena's full consistently.
I thought it was going to be huge when they came out, and I just feel like there's no real fan. Like
Right.
I don't know, you just don't run into people. You feel like
Well, I think
My
the
Nets.
lack of success is part of the reason why we undersell what their fan base might be. You know what I mean? But they've
Yeah.
got they're a loyal fan base. It's Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a bet much like the Knicks is a New York. It's a basketball.
I bet if you
Mecca.
go look at their home attendance,
Right.
like their first year that they were in Brooklyn, it
Not
was
great.
nowhere near what it is right now.
Right. No, I would agree.
It's not. Don't get me
Anyways,
started. But yes,
Kyrie.
Kyrie and KD were both going to leave, supposedly.
Well, here's the thing. Kyrie
Dame tweeted out a
just
picture.
needs. Yeah, that would have been something I would have loved to have seen. And we're going to talk about it here in a minute. I don't think KD should close the book on wanting to leave. I don't. He put out a statement that said, "Hey, I'm very carefully watching the situation that is going on in Brooklyn, and if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm not retracting that statement."
That would be a total dick move, though, because Kyrie recommitted to Brooklyn.
Did
to
we
be
not
with
just see
his best friend.
Did we not just see Devontae Adams do the same thing to Aaron Rodgers? Have we not seen LeBron James do the same thing to Dwayne Wade? It happens, right?
This
what-
would be different.
What
That's
Kevin
I'm saying.
Durant wants is to win. I think his want to win will supersede his want to win, especially with Golden State post
Well,
his exit.
I mean,
winning a
KD refers to
championship.
himself as a god. So
Yeah.
if he is a god, as he says, he should be able to win with anybody.
True, but you got to have pieces on the floor. And now he's minus Harden. He's Kyrie.
Oh, he's minus Harden?
Yeah.
Is
Kyrie.
he done? Is this the new James Harden? Is that what you're saying?
What?
Like, oh, my fault.
No, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
Kyrie opting back in, I think, was a bigger middle finger to the basketball world than him opting out and going somewhere else.
Really?
Okay, so he's opting into a contract that now owes him $38 million per year over the next 4 years, pretty much. Assuming that Kyrie plays 50 games, which would be the most games that he has played since he went to Boston. You know how much you're going to pay him per minute at a 35-minute per game average? $20,000 per minute is what that equals out to. That is double what the next highest guy is getting paid is racking up based on their contract, and that's Russell Westbrook. So him coming back is just give me my money and nothing else. I don't think Kyrie cares about basketball. I think Kyrie cares about being Kyrie, and if basketball is advantageous to what that is, awesome. If it's not, whatever. And I think Kevin Durant is that friend that is so loyal to his homeboy that even if he's making bad decisions, he's like, well, we're ride or die, so I'm going to allow you to kind of take you down with me. I don't have any other options.
I guess we'll see.
So this has been a mess. And if they don't win in the next 2 years,
And God, I hope they don't.
this is going to be an embarrassment. I don't think certain teams will ever go back to the giving. This flies in the, if this fails, this flies directly in the face of LeBron's player empowerment movement.
Yeah.
Like this stunts a lot of that
Yes, it
in the
does.
owner's eyes.
Well, I mean, there are people whose jobs it is to put teams together.
Yes.
That's their full-time job. That's what they do for a living.
For the last 5 years,
So it
players
is kind
have
of
put teams
frustrating,
together.
yeah, that players just like think that they can do that job
Yes.
with no experience or anything. And like obviously sometimes you can tell the style of play matches up well or something. And maybe that's why you make a move for yourself in free agency. But I don't know. I want GMs to GM a little bit.
That would be nice.
Players can definitely have an input. I'm not against it, but like, yeah. The GM is
it sucks.
Bad too.
It's the worst thing in the NBA.
You know, it's tough to watch.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch. So let's go from 2 aging East Coast legends to the West Coast with some second-gen legends that got signed by the Lakers, Mike. Off the back of the draft, both Sharif O'Neal and Scottie Pippen Jr. get signed to summer/G League /10-day, whatever you want to call it, contracts with the Lakers.
LeBron hasn't traded them yet?
Yeah, well, funny you should say that. What do you think this means for the Lakers, and are these guys going to make the team and have an impact?
They'll be in the G League for a little bit. I think Sharif has a much higher chance of making it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Sharif might make an appearance or two like this year, maybe with injuries because their entire team lives at the retirement home down the street.
Yeah.
But I don't expect to see either one of them probably for a couple years.
Yep.
And they might not be in purple and gold when we do see them in the NBA.
This, to me,
it's a
signals the beginning of the post-LeBron James plan.
No. Stop
listen,
it.
No, listen. Here's why.
You think their entire plan revolves around 2 guys that were undrafted?
Stop. It revolves around their fathers. What is LA if not a basketball team? It's the West Coast epicenter for basketball where media is important. So having Shaquille O'Neal and Scottie Pippen around the team as their sons develop as part of the media, as part of a legacy, will stem the tide when the inevitable LeBron departure destruction happens. Because everywhere LeBron goes, the team gets blown up. Well, when that team gets blown up, these guys will get to play. And who will be sitting courtside at every game, taking interviews, making comparisons, talking to the media? Scottie and Shaq. Shaq is great at media. Scottie's going to have a lot, is obviously riding a little bit of a media wave right now, taking on the Michael Jordan thing after The Last Dance. This is, to me, yes, it is a basketball move. Yes, I think both of these guys can play NBA minutes. Sharif, I would agree with you, more upside than Scottie's son. But it is a move to keep them relevant in the future when the inevitable end does come with LeBron, because I think it's right around the corner. They can't sustain the team that they currently have. Carmelo, Westbrook, injured AD, aging LeBron. Think about it this way. LeBron says he wants his final year to play with his son. Okay, so the Lakers trade up and they go get Bronny.
Trade up? They're going to sign him just like they did these two.
Fair enough. And even if that's the case, okay, so now it's the legacy Lakers. Now it's the legacy Lakers.
Who win 31 games a year.
But it's a story and it sells merch.
Who cares?
But that's who.
Why do we care? Why do we care? Honestly, like for my entire Dallas Cowboys and Los Angeles Lakers, they're bad, Nick. Why do we care?
It's just a thought. It's literally, I brought it up because that's what I see. I know you don't care because you're a curmudgeon, and even though we're in the media, you hate media. But this is a media storyline.
About that's how much I don't care. No, I mean, yes.
My point is, I don't dislike media. I dislike media. That's media to blow smoke. This is to blow smoke because of the logo behind the players.
Correct. I'm not dismissing that.
All I'm saying is the God's honest truth. A lot of people, when you talk stories like this, and I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying my point while talking about it is I don't give a shit. Cool. You signed 2 guys with familiar last names. There's a reason they went undrafted.
One had a heart condition. You're gonna condemn him for that? Way to go, Mike.
It's a reason he went undrafted. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying there's a reason he didn't go top 10 in the draft.
I hope Shaq flies to Minnesota and just dunks on you.
I made it very clear that I thought he had very much NBA potential, actually, as well. However, why do we care? We're not talking about any other teams' 2 undrafted signings. It's just because of the last name and because of the Lakers.
That's true.
It's like I don't.
I'm
talking about Archie Manning going to Texas too.
We're going to at the end of the show today.
I stand by my text thing here. Just this is the opposite of a feel-good story. Who gives a shit? Like, all these super advantage guys who got every break their entire life.
Yeah, who had
now
all
got
the
another
specialty
one.
training from the time they were 10 years old.
All right, whatever. You two are so curmudgeon-y
We
today.
call them like we see them.
Well, we both know that we would have been in the show had our parents been in the NBA or major leagues, and we're bitter.
If my last name was Manning, I would be in the NFL right now.
That is true.
Well, your last name's Mensing and you're on a sports podcast. Get with the fucking program.
His
All
last name's Mensing, and he's not in Mensa.
Oh.
Uh,
My dad is actually.
Catch Gabe
Mine
at your
might be.
local stand-up comedy house.
My dad is in Mensa. Maybe I should take the test.
So,
Mensing
all right.
and Mensing.
Well, we'll get off the NBA since Mike has just flattened or taken all the air right out of that topic, and I guess we'll give you a break because we know you know nothing about fighting, and we'll bring Gabe in here for UFC 276.
I wish I knew something about fighting right now.
You want to fight me? You lose.
Exactly. I said I wish I knew something about fighting right now.
Put me in, coach.
All right,
I'm ready.
Gabe. Let's start. Let's kick it off. Izzy versus Jared holy smokes. Yeah, versus Jared Cannonier for the title at middleweight. Is this an interesting story to you, or is this just another media hurdle on the way to Izzy's greatness, I suppose?
I think this is the best pay-per-view that I'm trying to think in my head when they've had a better card than this. Now,
Yes.
I don't know it top to bottom, but for a double co-main event type thing like this, holy shit, man. That is 2 killer fights.
Cannonier's got such an interest. Mike's actually going to leave.
Hey, that's great. No.
Cannonier's got such an interesting story as a guy, though, who started as a heavyweight, has knockouts at light heavyweight, and then has come down to middleweight and just worked his way all the way up. Like there's power in his hands. He's a good fighter. But does he really stand a chance?
I mean, I think that he is absolutely the type of guy to unseat Izzy. I
Really?
don't think he's going to. But it's like, I think there's better odds with him than anyone else he's fought. Better odds with him than who's the Aussie that I'm blanking on right now? The guy he's fought twice.
Pereira or Whitaker. Yeah.
I think he's more. There's something about this guy. He's a lunch pail fucking dude.
Yeah.
And he can wrestle, he can strike, he can kind of do it all, but he fights gritty fights too. And I can see him not being afraid of Izzy, not being tentative and staying away. And I think that's the key to beating him is someone's got to rough him the fuck up.
I would agree with you. I just think the way Izzy, I know everybody, the division's figured out Izzy. I don't think that's even close
Who
to
says
true.
that? Right.
The media has been saying that, which I think is absolutely outlandish.
Well, right. Beat him first.
My take on, let him lose a middleweight fight first.
Right.
But my take on this is Cannonier stands a chance as long as he is the aggressor in the fight. The minute he allows Izzy to kind of wade in with the mass variety of techniques and styles and different tricks that he has in his bag, the fight is over.
The other thing, and this is not, I haven't looked this up. I'm so curious if any of the pro writers talked about this, but you said something really key, which is that Cannonier started as a heavyweight.
Yeah.
Right? And I am so curious to know, because of course, Jan made Izzy look so human.
Yes.
Right? Like so pedestrian.
Yeah.
And that size was a huge part of it.
Yep.
Is Cannonier going to be 40 pounds above his weigh-in? Like, how much is he going to blow himself
after
up, I wonder?
after the weigh-ins?
And that could be a difference.
So they've talked about this a little bit. He doesn't have that luxury because if he does that, his body will go way up, and it's hard for him to get back down for his next fights. So then you're starting
to manage that very well. You're saying
exactly. Okay. Well, it's tough. You got to think the guy fought and had knockouts at heavyweight. That's right. 220. I think after weigh-ins, he's probably at 230, right? So then at 230 to come all the way down to 180 and fight, that's 50 pounds. Like, it would be very hard to do the yo-yo for a guy that's got this much time.
I can see that, but this is a title fight. And
well, do you want to be Charles Oliveira and then get on the scale and get stripped of your title the next time around?
I mean,
I think you go for broke. I think
the one thing I would actually add too is one of the cool things about Cannonier is that he was 300 pounds before his fighting career.
Yeah.
So like he has experience losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
He's done it before.
I don't know. That's like, I almost feel like that's his camp.
By the way, you bought up odds, Gabe. You want to hear something outlandish?
Yeah.
Izzy is a plus 420 on this fight.
Wow.
You have to bet. Can you put that in terms of how much you have to bet to get then?
Well, I'll tell you on Cannonier's side, if you bet $10 and Cannoneer wins, you get $42 back.
Right. I love that bet.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that bet. I can't believe that that's how wide the spread is. I mean, I get it. Izzy's been that dominant, but
right.
I mean, come on. If there's not a dude who's more ripe to be picked, and listen, I will eat words on that. Like, he could absolutely come out and dominate him and look like a stud, but I don't believe. There's also the thing when guys are bigger like that, they can usually take hits more, you know? And it's like, yeah, I just don't see, I don't know, unless he's tentative.
Brunson,
the moment
Brunson took him to the limit in their last fight. Now, I'll give him credit. He did recover. We've also seen guys come down to this weight class and their chin gets weaker over time because your body's just not, you're not as dense as you need to be, right? But I think the thing that everybody isn't, considering here is Pereira, who's also on this card, beat Izzy twice in kickboxing. Izzy better not have one eye on, the future fight with the guy who's beat him twice in another fight promotion, because then Cannonier will really have some opportunities to make this thing go.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it's actually, I did not know that Pereira was on this card.
Yes.
What a brilliant card for the UFC.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I mean, I've known of that dude for a long time, but it's like, I'm dying to see.
Him and Strickland's going to be a great fight.
Them fight side by side, too. I mean, that's, wow.
All right, so on the, any input, Mike, on that one? Just along for the ride? All right, cool. All right, and then Volkanovski versus Holloway 3. First game, before we form any opinions, who won the first two fights?
Okay, Holloway won one of them. And I can't remember which one it was, but I watched a bunch of the highlights for it.
Yep.
I mean, listen, I get that Volkanovski won both in terms of decisions. I'm not saying he got robbed or anything like that, but I do think Holloway won one of them.
I do too. I think the first one Holloway won.
These are like, it's like watching a murder.
This is going to be a war.
How many times these two guys hit each other in the head?
Oh my God.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie They Live, but there's a famous scene where Roddy Piper fights this dude, and go watch this afterwards. It's hilarious. This is like that. It's like watching Rocky 4, except it's real life.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean, Holloway's a different fighter these days. He looks like he's developed, but Volkanovski training at City Kickboxing with Israel Adesanya and all the other champs that they have that have come out of that gym. I am so torn on who's going to win this fight. I'd like to see Holloway win it because then we get installment 4, probably of Volkanovski Holloway, but
I don't suppose you know the odds on this.
I don't.
So I have a tragic feeling on this. Like, how many times you see a trilogy where a guy loses 2? The first
Not very
2,
many.
And comes back and wins the 3rd. Like, I mean, it's kind of amazing that this trilogy is on.
Well, what's crazy is Holloway earned it. Holloway said, no, I'm the number 1 contender, and Volk said, fine, prove it. And then Holloway went out and pieced up 3 number 1 contenders, and then Volkanovski kind of had to give him another shot.
Yeah, I mean, Holloway could make a case for being my favorite UFC fighter of all time. He is fucking incredible. It's incredible how he's able to do this.
Boxing-wise, he's probably the best boxer in the UFC. I know that,
absolutely you make that case for sure. And I have the odds right here now, by the way.
What are they?
So it looks like it says open, closing, and range. So I don't know what that means, but it says Holloway plus 124.
Okay, so
open.
It's 120 is pretty much even.
And then plus 160 to Holloway is what it says.
So it's
closing.
They're like almost dead even on betting with a very slight tilt to one side. That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Who do you have taking it, Gabe?
I mean, I hate to say this because I actually don't like Volkanovski. Even though he appears to be a good guy or whatever, I want Holloway to win so bad, but
Same.
I don't think he's going to do it.
Well, Holloway, if Volkanovski wins this fight, they've already started to talk about his next one. You might be looking at a champ fight.
Hold on. If Volkanovski wins?
Yes.
I've heard him say that before, but who is going to
Oliveira.
take the fight? Oliveira?
Or whoever the champion turns out to be at
Oliveira's not a good fight for him. I don't think.
I don't either, but
it's I mean, put it this way. How about this? If Holloway wins, where do you put him all-time UFC fighters? Because I think he might be one.
One?
Dude, how many?
He's on the Mount Rushmore.
He's
on the Mount Rushmore for sure.
And I've never seen a champion, except for maybe George St. Pierre, who have kind of come back from adversity that and become a champ. I mean, that's incredible. See those guys, when you break them, they've been champ for so long, they just can't handle not being champ.
Right.
He's incredible.
Yeah. It's funny. I think we really are in the golden age of UFC right now. I think UFC is at its peak.
Yeah.
Right now.
Probably.
I really do.
I had this thought, and I'm sorry, I know you want to move on. I just want to say this quickly because I've been thinking about it. I want to get your guys' take.
Yeah.
So, of course, there are UFC trading cards, right?
Yeah.
And as I'm going through them, I bought some and looked in there. It was crappy, but whatever the case, I was thinking that it's it doesn't seem like these are good buy because there's no such thing as a Babe Ruth or whatever in MMA because it's so competitive. They all lose at the end. They all have because Anderson Silva, I mean, he might be the greatest all time in terms of skill.
I mean, Izzy takes out Cannonier and beats Pereira. You can toss that argument out the window.
I don't think he's had the for whatever reason. I don't think we perceive him, although same as Silva, as having that guy to fight against too. They had a trilogy.
But both of those guys, the argument is the gap in talent is so vast.
Mm-hmm.
Is so vast.
It's true. I mean, I love Izzy. I think he's
I think he's
awesome.
one of the best things for the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I like him because I wince when I see him get hit.
Yes.
No, don't hit him.
Gabe treats him like his own child.
Like my girlfriend or something. Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. And then just two other fights real quick. The Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira fight, obviously is right. The one that precedes the Holloway 3 fight. I don't care who wins that fight. I just want to see somebody put on a show that makes me want to come back and watch Izzy's next title defense.
Well, if that's the case, we should want Pereira.
Yeah.
Right?
For the story.
Yep, that's the storyline.
But I mean, Strickland, though, is 23-3-1?
Is he the white supremacist? Strickland? Or whatever, he has that vibe about him?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The mauling skinhead.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be him.
Yep. I've watched him fight a little bit. And
he's good.
Really skilled, but
super.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just...
Super. Yep. So there's that one. And then Mike's least favorite fighter, Sean O'Malley, fights on this card.
What do you mean? That's my least favorite fighter. That can't be his least favorite fighter.
I love Sean O'Malley.
I hate Sean O'Malley.
Oh, so do you think he's going to lose to Pedro Munoz?
I don't know. And I'm not saying that but I think
we just hope that he does.
I think he's soft. I think he's a hype train. I think,
Dude, the fact that it took him 14 minutes to knock out that dude who had 2 days notice.
He broke both of his hands on that guy's face.
And it took him 14 minutes to knock him out.
You know what I didn't like?
What?
Is in interviews when he was talking about how he won't fight top 10 guys because he's, because he's not getting paid for it. And I understand the business. That is right.
Yeah.
I'm just so not used to hearing a fighter speak that way.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I know they do. I know it's I don't know. There's just something about him that I just don't. I don't know.
Well, he's got two fights left on his current deal, and right now, I think the way that he has it negotiated with Dana, nobody has said this, but it's been alluded to multiple times, is he'll get the Munoz fight if he wins this one. He'll take on somebody inside the top 10, which will be the end of his contract, and then he'll have all the leverage in the world to go, well, I want a fucking title fight and a lot of money to start my contract, and then I'll do everything that the UFC needs me to do to be a hype train champion.
Yeah.
The business in that makes sense.
In his favor, can you think of anyone else? There is something to people when they hype themselves the way he does, that confidently for that long. I can't think of a dude who's done it for a long time and then was revealed to be a fraud.
Yeah.
So maybe, but...
I don't know. Munoz's resume... I was watching the UFC, the preview. They kind of retell the guys' stories.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, well, Munoz has taken out all of the previous champions, and that's why he's still in the top 10. Right. Well, that is the point that you made earlier about, a lot of these guys, they're champions for so long, and then when they lose, they just can't get back on the right side of winning.
Yeah.
He has been the benefactor of that storyline 4 or 5 different times. And then the only other fight that people go to is the Sandhagen fight. And Sandhagen came down in weight and he knocked him out in 15 seconds because he had, the Dustin Poirier effect where he was too light for that weight and had no chin. So I just don't believe in this guy's resume. I think Sean's going to go out and piece him up.
Yeah, and I know nothing about about him as a fighter, I guess. But, and sorry, I just can't get off the Sean O'Malley thing because I just, do you believe he has, so 2 questions. Do you believe he has a chin?
Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Where did he show his chin?
I don't think he's had to show it, which fair, you can say he doesn't have it. Huh? No, he got, the only fight that he lost was it was a no contest. It was an injury. So he didn't get knocked out.
I've seen him get knocked out, but maybe not. Okay. I thought he got knocked out. I was convinced, but okay. And then the other question is who has pushed him? Like, has he fought an elite wrestler? Like a multi-dimensional wrestler, not a dude who just came in with one.
All of the guys in that weight division are inside the top 10.
Yeah. And it just makes, I don't know. He looks one-dimensional, right? He doesn't look physically strong like that. He's a, dancer, striker, and I just can't imagine.
Everybody said the same thing about Izzy, man. I think that's
true.
They're very alike to me because of the size at their division. Izzy is so long for his division. So tall. Like his reach he's always had a reach advantage. So shooting on him to take him down, very difficult. Sean O'Malley, the same way. If you look at the size differential and the length in the ring, it's hard to shoot on him because you're going to get caught with something coming in. You've got such a long ways to go.
Okay, fine. But you have to admit that his chest tattoo is
atrocious. Yes.
Freaking Conor McGregor ripoff, which is the worst tattoo in MMA anyway. I hate Conor McGregor.
Connor's tiger tattoo.
Ugh. Or panther.
Why is it every time we talk UFC, you got to trash my boy? Can we not do that? Not even fighting right now.
I'll give you my UFC cards I have from as an apology.
Fair enough. I'll take them. All right. And then, Mike, would you like to re-enter the conversation?
Yeah.
Anything to say about the UFC? Will you watch because it is International Fight Week? We'll be at the cabin for when it's on.
Maybe.
I'm going to have it on.
Then I guess I'll be watching.
We're going to introduce Mike to the fight game. Look how long my arm looks when I do
this. That's awesome. If there was a ball involved, Mike, would you watch it?
That actually looks more normal for you than it does for me, which is sad.
Probably. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
All right.
All right. So let's talk football. Some predictions to give out. Mike decided that we were going to break down the NFC East, so we'll do that.
NFC West.
Sorry.
NFC West.
Nope, that's UFC, Gabe. Try again.
Come on. Have a little trust in Gabe, Nicholas.
I know, I just like giving him shit.
Heart attack during the
So we are running a little behind, though.
We can be quick.
So we're going to have to be a little quick. So we apologize to the NFC West fan bases, but most of you, honestly, you'll be just fine.
All right, so let's start with the defending Super Bowl champions then.
Yeah, it's top 3 talented team in the NFL for sure.
Yep.
So don't really care what their schedule is. I can tell you how many wins they're going to get.
Yeah, so weeks 1 through 5, pretty simple. As soon as Gabe gets the graphic up.
Yeah, no worries. We're good.
Sorry, got to come in.
Mike hates this, or Gabe hates this segment from production.
But that's not why I don't have it. I'm actually I'm seeing it, and I'm having a computer thing back here.
Technical difficulties.
That's all right. We'll go through it anyways. So weeks 1 through 5, we've gone over. They get Buffalo at home, they get Atlanta at home, then they get 2 road games, Arizona and San Francisco, and then they get Dallas at home as well. How do you have them starting and why, Mike?
Honestly, it's going to be tough to beat this Rams team, especially in Los Angeles. I think, you know what? Honestly, I think I have to give them 1 loss, and it's at San Francisco.
That's what I said too. I don't think I think no matter who the quarterback is or what the situation with Debo is, I don't think Shanahan lets a division game early in the season get away knowing that they're going to need that late for their playoff push. So I had them at 4-1.
The scheme of the 2 teams as well. San Francisco definitely plays a more ground and pound, great defensive football. The Rams want to open it up. So it's going to be whoever dominates the time of possession in that game a little bit more so. and San Francisco has kind of a record of doing so.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go San Francisco in that one, but the other 4,
win.
Yeah.
And then week 6 through 12, they have a very early bye. They have their bye week 6. And
Could
then
hurt them if they have some injuries as well.
nah, but I mean, historically, they're a pretty healthy team. They haven't had any injuries up to this point. Knock on wood for them. At home, then they get San Francisco at home coming off the bye. Then they go to Tampa, home again for Arizona, and then on the road for New Orleans and Kansas City before taking on Seattle at home. I had them at 9-2 through this stretch. I think they'll take a loss to Kansas City. 5 weeks removed from their bye, second game in a row on the road against another playoff caliber team. I think Kansas City, with all the new pieces, will have it figured out by week 11 and give them some problems. And then that's really it. I think they beat Tampa because Tampa without Gronk and without Godwin leaves Jalen Ramsey on Mike Evans as the only real offensive threatening matchup. Tampa doesn't run the ball all that well.
Yeah, but it's Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady has done it with the guy who put carts away at Walmart.
No, I get it. I get it, but that I don't know who else they have. And like I said, I trust.
I'm saying it doesn't matter.
Well, you say a lot of things don't matter these days. NBA takes, games, quarterbacks, UFC.
Yeah.
What do you got them at?
What do you care about?
8-3.
8-3.
8-3.
So they lose to Tampa. You
lose to Tampa in a close game. I mean, it's Tom Brady, right? It's
Matt Stafford.
It's avenging a playoff loss. I don't see Tom letting Matthew Stafford get away with another one. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Brady scores with 2 seconds left to make sure he doesn't even give Stafford the 40 seconds type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll go lost there, and then Kansas City. That's going to be a really fun game to watch. 54-51 type game, but Kansas City takes it. It's in Arrowhead. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had as well.
Yeah, that tips the scales for me a little bit.
All right, and then last stretch of the season for the Rams, they have a home game against the Raiders. They go to Green Bay, coming off of a bye.
Yep. Talked about it.
Versus Denver at home, and then they end the season at the Chargers and at Seattle. Have them losing against Green Bay because Green Bay is protected by the NFL for some fucking reason. And then I have them losing to the Chargers. So many weapons on that offense.
I mean, it's just funny because I told you it didn't matter what their schedule looked like. And I was going to say the win count, which is 13.
Yeah.
And that's where you have them?
No, I have it 12-5.
12-5?
Yeah.
Who's their 5th? So you have Chargers, Green Bay.
Yep.
Kansas City.
Yep.
And San Francisco.
Oh, all right. I have them at 13-4. Very good.
The same as me.
All right.
So congratulations, LA Rams fans. We apologize that we maybe didn't do a deep dive into your schedule. However, it is late June and injuries and matchups.
Mike
and
was talking about
things.
this last week post the show. I'm like, hey man, how come you don't give any like credentials as to why people are winning and losing? And he's like, because it's fucking June.
Yeah, we don't know if your
like,
starting running back is going to get hurt preseason week 1. So I'm not going to talk about how he's going to run all over the Panthers in week 8. Like, who cares? We don't know who's playing.
What do you care about these days?
When it's the week of the game, I'll break it down more. Because I'll know who's playing. I'll know the injuries. I'll know the matchup more. It actually just so happens that Kyler Murray comes out and is an absolute MVP candidate this year. That changes things.
You know, our job is foresight as part of the media, Michael.
Yeah, and my foresight tells me that the Rams, as a team, will figure out a way to win 13 games.
All right, fair enough. I also have them at 13 wins. It'll be a good team. Now, the Arizona Cardinals.
What do I care about anyway?
And I am going to preface this with a take that I had last year. And I want you to let the fans know if I was right or wrong. Did I or did I not call Seattle's collapse at the beginning of last season? Did I not sit on this show and say, I think it was around this time last year, this season will be the beginning of the divorce between Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, and Seattle. And now Russell is in Denver, and their season did not go to plan. Did I not say that on this show?
You did.
I did say that on this show.
Say that on this show.
Okay. The Arizona Cardinals for me this year are last year's Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, sorry, Cards fans.
This is going to be a very ugly schedule. I went through and I wanted to give, I fairly was like 9 wins. Then I looked at the schedule and it got really, really ugly, really, really fast.
This is going to be an interesting one because I haven't spent a whole lot of time on their schedule itself. I've actually just been looking at their roster a little bit more. So I was definitely thinking 9 wins as well going into this.
Okay. So weeks 1 through 5, they are they are home to face Kansas City, on the road to take on Vegas. Then they get the Rams, at the Cardinals, and then home for Philadelphia. This is a tough first stretch. I have them at 1-4.
I definitely see how. I'll say 2-3.
Okay, so Kansas City.
But they start 0-3.
Kansas City's defense will give, which, I mean, in Kansas City's front seven,
I mean, this
are
could be
bigger
a
players
too as well in week 1. To be
are bigger players, right? So Kyler Murray is going to have to scramble. I have enough faith in that defense to disrupt it. Minus D-Hop, right? I think a lot of this for me, the first 6 weeks without DeAndre Hopkins is very, very difficult, right? So then they go to Vegas. Chandler Jones just came from Arizona. You think they're not going to get inside information and they're on the road for that game?
Well, and that's a good defense. I mean, you got Chandler Jones, you got
Max Crosby, Abrams.
Yeah, that's a good defense too. So
and they added Devontae Adams
and a pretty decent head coach as well.
Exactly. Okay. So then they have to take on the Rams. Well, that's a loss. The Rams are a better football team than Arizona is.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they go to Carolina. That's a winnable game.
The Cardinals have the unfortunate reality of being in probably one of the best divisions in football.
Yes.
Because if you put them in
if you put them in our division,
put them in the NFC East.
Yeah.
They're right up there with the Cowboys, in my opinion.
They're in the West.
Yeah.
So, and then they get Philly, and Philly is the way that they control the clock, I think, is going to be a problem for Arizona.
I chose Arizona in the Philly one is because it's in Arizona. And I don't trust Jalen Hurts, especially on the road. I just don't trust Jalen Hurts as far as I can throw him, man.
I get it. I get it. But the week prior to, they still don't have D-Hop in that game.
I get it.
It's going to be very hard for them to move the football.
But I do think we both think that they win in Carolina.
Yes.
They're 1-3. They're coming back home. They're riding a high. They have some momentum. And Philly's not exactly an overpowering team. While they are a good team in the NFL, so is Arizona.
All right. That's
and
fair.
When it's pretty evenly matched there, like what it's going to come down to there is very similar to what we talked about with the Rams was who's going to control the clock.
Yeah.
Right. So Arizona's offense is similar built to Los Angeles. They're going to try to air raid you. They have a good quarterback. They, in theory, have decent weapons on the outside. Their best weapon, obviously, is going to be coming back week 7. But Philly will try to hold the ball for 40 of the 60 minutes of game time.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. Because if you're going to be able to do that, you have to convert third downs.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing if you're going to maintain time of possession throughout an NFL game. And picking up third downs against a good pass rush on the road with a still young developing quarterback. Yeah. We'll see.
I gotcha. All right. So weeks 6 through 12. Now, when it starts to go bad, we've seen this with Minnesota teams. Then all of a sudden the bounces don't go your way, right? So they go at Seattle, home versus New Orleans, at Minnesota, at home or Seattle. Then they get the Rams on the road, San Francisco at home, the Chargers at home. I have them at 3-9 at the end of this stretch.
At the end of this stretch?
At the end of this stretch. They beat.
I have them at 5-7.
So they take both games against Seattle.
Agreed.
Okay. The New Orleans defense is going to be a problem for the Cardinals.
Yeah, but New Orleans doesn't have an offense at all that I believe in.
Well, and this will be a coin flip game, very dependent on what Alvin Kamara's suspension looks like. He could be back by week 7.
Is Alvin? I don't know. Do you think Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas is enough to beat Arizona?
Possibly. Because when it goes bad, it goes bad.
New Orleans has probably a top 15 defense. I don't know if they're a top 10 defense or a top 5 defense anymore. So, I mean, yeah, they're competitive, but so is Arizona, dude. Arizona's a decent team, right?
I get it. I get it.
I mean, if it comes down to Kyler Murray versus Jameis Winston,
I totally agree with you, but I also think the absence of what Arizona has lost on the defensive side of the football will allow guys like Jameis Winston to play above their waterline. I think this is a coin flip.
Back week 7.
DeAndre Hopkins.
So
first week back, you think they're just going to be like, here, 70 plays, go.
You're goddamn right. They are at home too. Hell yeah, they are.
So, I mean, okay. So even if you give them that one, they're 4-8 at best. They lose to Minnesota. We've already gone over why that is. They'll lose to the Rams. They're going to lose to San Francisco, and the Chargers are just going to be overwhelming. That defense.
I mean, I agree with you. So they're going to beat Seattle twice.
Yep.
Because Seattle is a dumpster fire.
And maybe beat New Orleans.
I think they're going to beat New Orleans, and then I had them winning week 5 as well. in the previous segment. So that's actually up to 5 wins for me. You're sitting at 5-7 halfway through the year. It depends on how the schedule shakes out.
This is the end of it's ugly. Okay, so last part of the schedule, 13 through 17. They go New England. 18. Sorry. Sorry. All right, so they do get their bye week, week 13, which is late.
Dude.
Then they go New England, Denver, Tampa, Atlanta, San Francisco to end the year. And a lot of those games, 3 out of the 4 of them, or 3 out of the 5 of them are on the road. So I have them losing to New England.
Mm-hmm.
I have them losing to Denver.
Oh, you're actually giving Denver some credit.
Yes, losing to Tampa, beating Atlanta, and losing to San Francisco, who will need that game late to get into the playoffs.
I'm actually same, dude. So that's 6-11 for me and 5-12.
5-12.
That's, yeah.
It will be the implosion that leads to Kyler officially asking out. This might be the final nail in the coffin for Cliff Kingsbury. Even though he just got an extension, he might get fired in Arizona. It could lead to Buda Baker. This could be the beginning of a very, very ugly offseason.
Of a schedule can really affect so many things, because this is a top 16 football team.
Correct.
They're 16, 15, 14. They're like right in there.
Yeah.
And that's potentially playoffs if things go your way, but it's also potentially being the 25th best team.
But if
you have a tough schedule.
I will say this, Arizona fans, there is a way to do this properly. If Kyler asks out and you're at 5-12, you can trade him and be one of those teams that has 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 3 third-round picks in this year's draft and quickly try to rebuild this thing. So don't get stuck in the, I don't want to blow it all the way up stage like Minnesota does. If it goes this bad, steer into the skid.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to bring in a new head coach, new quarterback. You could get into the Bryce Young sweepstakes, possibly. So, yeah, I mean.
And then Kyler comes to Minnesota.
Really, Arizona, though? Cardinal fans out there.
Sorry.
You're a decent football team, and things can go well. I don't foresee that happening.
Me either. So, next will be the Seattle Seahawks. I don't have a ton of notes on them, but we'll give this a shot.
They are the worst team in the NFC West right now.
Oh, by a mile. By a mile.
Their entire team was propped up by a guy named Russell Wilson,
and he's gone.
Mr. Unlimited, and he is in Denver.
Well, he wasn't Mr. Unlimited till he started eating edibles in Colorado and then inevitably got traded that direction.
Is that right?
I think that's how that went. But week 1, they play Denver on Monday Night Football. And then
you don't think Russell Wilson is going to make sure that he wins that football game?
Oh, he's going to throw for 600 yards.
Right.
Week 2 at San Francisco, at home to face Atlanta. Week 3, then on the road in weeks 4 and 5 to take on the Motor City Kitties and the Saints. So I will give them a loss to Denver. They're going to lose to San Francisco. I think they lose to Atlanta.
Oof. At home?
Okay, they'll beat Atlanta. They probably lose to the Lions and...
They just lost to the Lions. You got to give them over the Saints.
2 wins. 2 wins here. Maybe 2 wins here.
1 win.
Okay.
It's Atlanta week 3.
All right. That's fair. So not a beautiful start. This team just has a lot of holes. They don't have a quarterback. I do like the running back core that they have, but their offensive line sucks.
Penny will have a good season. He'll probably have 15 to 17 all-purpose yards. I'd say maybe 1,200 on the ground. But that's all. Like, you have DK Metcalf, but you're going to really trust Drew Lock to throw. Who's the
here's the thing.
Seattle?
I don't think DK Metcalf is there by the trade deadline.
Really?
Did he get a new contract from Seattle? No,
he did not. Is he already up for a new contract?
Yeah.
Wow, time goes fast, guys. Wow.
Yeah. Well, AJ Brown, who was his teammate at Ole Miss, just got traded to Philly because he wanted a new deal.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, Seattle.
It's gonna get ugly.
Unfortunately, I think your kind of reign of terror a little bit in the NFC West is over.
This will be, if they do this right, the front office should be preparing to do the same thing I just said that the Cardinals should do, which is stock up some picks because you're going to get rid of Pete Carroll and then you give your new head coach a lot of draft collateral.
Why? I mean, Pete Carroll, I do want to say Pete Carroll is the type of head coach that I would almost keep through the transition because it's not him.
I know it's him.
Okay.
Pete Carroll has not been able to draft worth a shit since the 2 or 3 years that he was removed from the college football game, and that's because he was familiar with everybody in college football. Since then, their drafts have been abysmal. Abysmal.
Is that all on him though? Is he the guy in Seattle who makes those picks?
But he was the guy that made. I would think so because he was the guy that made the picks the first 2 to 3 years.
Isn't he known as someone who's good at developing young talent though? I know that was the early book on him. I don't know if that's still.
Yeah,
I think he's a hell of a football coach.
I do too. I just think
he's a hell of a football coach.
Him, much like Mike Zimmer and their styles.
Totally different styles.
Have outstayed their welcomes in the cities that they're in.
Okay.
Is he a good X's and O's coach, or is he a good cheerleader?
Motivator.
He's definitely more so a motivator
and a development guy.
Yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't discredit his X's and O's. He's been successful at the college level.
His best years are with guys that are now having success other places as his assistants.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Pete Carroll has been a football coach for 40 years.
No, I totally get it.
A lot of success.
I get it.
Many different roles.
I get it.
I don't know. But the Seahawks this year, unfortunately.
Week 6 home against Arizona, on the road against the Chargers, week 8 at home against the Giants, week 9 at the Cardinals. Then they go at Tampa. And then they get Vegas week 12. I think they
at Tampa is Germany.
Huh? Oh yeah, it's in Germany. They beat the Giants?
Yep, agreed. They get 1.
Maybe.
They get 1.
Maybe.
They're the worst team in the NFC West, dude. They're not going to have many wins.
Yeah. So, like, they're at 3 wins this far in the season, maybe. All right. And then the final stretch. Yeah. Rams week 13. Panthers week 14. And then they end the season San Francisco, Kansas City, Jets, and Rams. I think I had the Jets beating them in our previous prediction. They lose out.
I might have had the Jets beating them, but that's such a toilet bowl game. It could go either way.
I think they lose out.
I'll say they beat Carolina and the Jets, and they get 4 of them. 4 and 13.
Their ceiling is a 5-win team.
Oh God, by far. Yeah, if you went 4, that's. If they win 6 or 7 games, does Pete Carroll stay?
Yeah, you'd have to keep him.
That's what I'm saying, dude. So we'll see.
All right. So go ahead and rinse and repeat on really bad football teams between Arizona and Seattle, and then the Niners. This is a team.
I wouldn't put Arizona in that same conversation, but
this is a team that actually, when I looked at their schedule, surprised me.
It benefits them a little bit.
A lot. Because I was thinking of like the quarterback thing. Like Trey Lance is going to have his rookie moments, right? Jimmy G, if he does or doesn't stay, may not be healthy or in shape. But the rest of that team.
So as of right now, who's starting week 1?
Jimmy G.
Okay.
The stories that we keep hearing is Trey Lance has made all these improvements, but we're not trading Jimmy because Trey's not ready.
Then
okay, so
like
they
doing it the right way then.
Right. So they start the year on the road at Chicago, home for Seattle, on the road against Denver. Then they go, they get a home game against the Rams, and then they get Panthers.
I hate these San Francisco times. They do not play Chicago at 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. in San Francisco.
It's 10 a.m. our time. It's 10 a.m. in San Francisco. Good catch. But I got them going 4-1 here. The loss to Denver is it. You wanted me to start lending some credence to Denver?
So Red is at home, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you. I think it's just Denver. No trouble with Chicago or Seattle, in my opinion.
No.
The Rams game will be really good, but we've talked about that one. That's the one that we talked about with San Francisco dominating the time of possession.
They outclassed the Panthers.
Yeah, and the Panthers are the Panthers.
And it's another Sunday night football game. Rush shows up for primetime games.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a hell of a game. It could go either way, but I'll say Denver.
Okay. Second part of the schedule, they go at Atlanta, home for Kansas City, at the Rams. Then they get the Chargers at home, Arizona. And they had a home stretch. They go Chargers, Arizona, New Orleans, all at home. Or it's a home game, but they are Germany.
Okay.
Or whatever. Actually, I think it's New Mexico.
New Mexico?
Mexico, now that I think about it. Sorry. I have
in Albuquerque.
8-3. They will take losses back to back to both Kansas City and the Rams here. The rest of these games are winnable games, to include the Chargers game.
With you.
Why? Because you realize just how smart I am.
I mean, if we agree, is it you being smart?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So you agreeing with me is you being smart. Noted.
No, you agreeing with me is me being smart.
That doesn't make sense.
Whatever.
8-3.
8-3. You got the losses in the same place, Kansas City and the Rams?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think they beat the Chargers?
Very similar to that LA game at home. Like Herbert might throw a pick or two and it's going to be too much. San Francisco is very efficient. They run the football. They dominate the time of possession. I just don't. It's going to be like a 28-24 game, and Herbert is going to throw his second pick of the game, maybe on that final drive to win it, type thing.
That one for me came down to coaches. I trust Shanahan over what is it, Staley that's out there.
Yeah, but he's.
I like Staley, but he takes a lot of chances.
And so does Herbert.
Yeah.
So I think those chances against San Francisco plays very much a style of football this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. You're going to make that mistake, and we're just going to kind of keep on trucking.
Yep.
And the Chargers offense makes too many mistakes like that against a team that plays that style of football.
Gotcha. All right, last stretch. And they're on a long home stretch here. If you throw in the Mexico game, because they've got home games against Miami and Tampa. They go to Seattle, home against Washington, on the road against Vegas, and then at home against Arizona to end the season. I got them at 12-5. They'll take losses to Miami, which is accurate with what I said going back, and Vegas.
Yeah, I have them at 13-4.
Okay.
I'm tied with LA. So it's going to come down to points for and points against. And these two teams, man.
The Rams will have more points for.
Have always, like, the past 2 or 3 years now?
It's them two neck and neck.
And I think it's going to be a repeat of that this year.
Yeah. This is that.
San Francisco is just like so much that team that's very, very good, and they don't have a ton of like star power.
They're running into San Francisco is like running into a brick wall.
Yeah.
They're so solid.
But the brick wall like just kind of moves forward at a steady pace that's going to end up knocking you off the table type
exactly.
thing, right?
They're a Squid Games character.
They're really yes. They're just unbeatable at times. Like unless you have the firepower to blast through that moving wall, you can't defeat it.
The immovable force.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who they are, 12-5. I got them obviously one game below the Rams, but this is that division. We talk about this all the time when we do schedule predictions, right? There's always that one division where it's like top talent, bottom feeders.
Yeah.
And there's a large gap.
One of them is going to finish with like 12 or 13 wins and be a 5 seed.
Yeah.
So just think about that. You're going to have to
crazy.
play on the road after having won 12 to 13 wins.
That's crazy. All right. Well, that's what we got for the NFC West.
Yeah, and I think we have time for 2 hot corner topics.
Can we start with the Chase Claypool one? Because I thought this was so outrageous. Sure. Okay. Chase Claypool goes on, I think it was the
Twitter, right?
It was on a podcast with Brandon Marshall and Darius Butler and Fred Taylor and all those guys. Oh, the I Am Athlete podcast. And proclaims, I know I am a top 3 receiver.
In Pittsburgh?
In the NFL.
In Pittsburgh?
In the NFL.
In the state of Pennsylvania?
Exactly. So I wanted to put this into reference, Mike. I wrote down some names here. So I wrote down all the ones that he must not have been talking about, right? So let's just count them off. Devontae Adams. This is in no particular order. Yep. Tyreek Hill. Yep. Stephon Diggs. Deebo Samuels. D-Hop. DK Metcalf. Jamar Chase. Terry McLaurin. DJ Moore. AJ Brown. Cooper Kupp. Jerry Jeudy. Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb. Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen. Mike Evans. And Waddle. Those were just off the top of my head, and I'm at 19.
Yeah.
This was such an outlandish comment.
I will say, does Chase Claypool have the potential to be a top 3 receiver?
Congratulations. You can wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up faster.
Yeah, okay. No, he's definitely not a top 3 receiver.
Not even close. In his attitude, in like his situational awareness, we talked about Kirk earlier. Put him on fucking even playing field. Situationally, they're both just not great.
If you guys aren't huge Steelers fans, one of the things that Chase Claypool did, I believe it was last year against the Vikings, with like 30 seconds left. They had gotten a first down and they needed to stop the clock. And he got up and celebrated that he had gotten the first down and wasted about 10 to 12 seconds. And they ended up running out of time and losing the game.
He is the definition of wasted potential.
I mean, he had such a good rookie year.
What have I told you? Big Ben is a wide receiver maker.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see Mason Rudolph step in. No, I'm just kidding.
Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett.
It will be Trubisky until probably about week 8. And it will depend on their record whether or not they go Pickett at that time.
Yeah.
I've got some of his, like the quote from that
in
there. And it's just funny logic even. Just my second year, I was a better football player than my first year. The plays just didn't work out. Some of the plays didn't go my way. I didn't make some plays that I needed to make. But it's just like complete whataboutism or I don't know. Like, I mean, the plays didn't go your way. Well, that's the difference between.
Just to be devil's advocate, I get what he means. Like, if let's do a baseball comparison. If you're a shortstop and you know for a fact your fielding has gotten better, and you come out in a press conference before game 1 of the new season and say, I know I'm a better fielder this year. Mm-hmm. And the first ground ball you takes a bad hop off a divot in the infield and it's an error E6. That play just didn't go your way. You are still a better infielder.
Sure.
So I get what he's saying to an extent, but he's nowhere near a top 3 receiver in the NFL.
If everything went right for him last year, he may have cracked the top 20. Like, because I would still take T. Higgins over him. Like, there are other names out there where I'm
starting
like,
to get a little close for me, to be honest. Like, because I do see Claypool's upside. I really do. But
you know who I didn't put on that list? The other guy that's in his locker room.
Right.
How about Juju Smith-Schuster? How about, we didn't even mention tight ends.
Right.
That catch the football. Like, it's not even close.
When asked to predict his numbers.
1,300 yards.
13 and 10. That wouldn't.
Does that make him top 3?
No.
That's what I was thinking.
That would be a top. That'd be a top 10 receiver.
Top 15.
Top 3 numbers are 1,500 plus
and
15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So even his logic on what he's going to be able to produce based on what he is saying is wrong.
And ultimately, he's talking about his self-belief and how good he is in practice.
You should always believe in yourself.
Right.
But in a social media era where if you
go on a podcast and proclaim that you're top 3 in your field when you're clearly not, is not self-confidence. It's delusion.
Yeah.
It's lack of personal awareness.
Yeah. All right. One more hot corners segment. We're running on the timer.
Arch Manning, commit to Texas. Yeah. I just wanted to talk to the resident quarterback about this.
Yeah.
I thought that this was 100% about the system and him being able to develop under, the Big 12 and then being there in his final year to usher them into the SEC before he takes off for the NFL.
Will they go into the SEC
2023
junior year then?
Yes. Well, so he's got 1 year left of high school.
Yep.
And then Texas has 2 years after. Yeah, it will be his junior year then.
Okay.
Where he'll play his junior year when they enter the SEC, and then he'll be eligible for the draft.
I really like this because he's purposefully setting himself apart as well, right? If he would have gone to Ole Miss or Tennessee, everybody knows what would have been happening, right? Little surprised he didn't. Like, if I were him, I might have just gone to Alabama, to be completely honest.
Oh, God, no.
Why? Why not?
Because you never get to throw the ball.
Oh, yeah, you would.
Not only that, here's why.
That's a popular misconception about Bama.
Outside of Mac Jones, name another successful Alabama quarterback.
Tua. As far as getting,
we sure that we're going to call him successful?
As far as getting to the NFL and being drafted highly, which Arch will do, and then Arch will play better in the NFL, possibly. Right?
2 for fucking 500.
Here's the thing. This is an investment and a springboard. He's not stopping at college football. So his decision, to me, should have been looking at the program that will vault him up and make sure that he goes number 1 or number 2 overall.
Yeah.
If he were to go to Bama, do you disagree that would have happened? He probably would have won a national championship or 2, and I bet he would have been top 2 or 3 in his draft class. But do you disagree?
I don't disagree.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Here's the counter argument that I have made on this show countless times to you. The reason why Alabama Ohio State, and prior to Trevor Lawrence, which still hasn't been proven, Clemson, and some of these other programs that are highly touted, why their quarterbacks struggle is because playing in the NFL is so much more like
Trevor Lawrence too. Jeez.
Is so much more like playing in a Texas style school than it is playing at Bama. Never in the NFL, ever, 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 are you going to take a snap as an NFL quarterback and have the best center, guard, tackle, the fastest wide receivers, one of the top 5 running backs in the country, and then on defense have 3 first-round draft picks at middle linebacker, 2 first-round draft picks at safety, 1 at corner. The NFL does not work that way. What's good for you as a quarterback is playing against programs like that on a consistent basis because that helps develop you.
I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, there's a team within the Vikings division that has 7 first-round picks on their defense.
Hmm.
So to say that doesn't happen in the NFL is incorrect.
I'm just saying.
And that same team, by the way, has one of the best O-lines, center, guard, and tackle, and a really good running back. So, like,
if you were going through right now as a quarterback, listen, if you were going through right now and you knew that you were going to make the NFL,
okay,
Arch Manning situation, would you rather take the shirt, like, be the guy that's propped up by your program, or be the guy that props your program up?
I mean, to be completely honest, knowing me, I would go to the University of Minnesota. Just cause.
So you'd be the guy that props your program up.
I would.
Because he's scared of winning. We've established that.
Yeah, dating all the way back to the Minnesota Wild trade.
That's right. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, great. That's fucking awesome.
It looked like you took that hard, and I didn't mean that. I thought it was just a funny joke. But also, say one thing I wanted to interject here, and I'm not the college football mind you guys are, but
yeah,
to me, the first thing that popped out to me when you said that is you wouldn't go to Alabama because to be under Saban's ego. Like, when you think of being Arch Manning, would you rather go somewhere where they're so glad to have you, or someone who tries to break you, or what? Or
depends on your personality type and how you like to be coached.
Sure.
Sark's a pro system. Sarkisian is a pro system, and that's who.
You're telling me Alabama isn't a pro style offense?
Not based on the talent. I'm sorry.
Based on the talent, they're too good. Even though their scheme they run is a pro style offense.
I agree. They are too good to run that system and develop good quarterbacks. I'm sorry, Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa, who might be a backup quarterback for the rest of his career after this year, are the exception, not the rule, to quarterback development in that program.
I mean, I think here's the thing about Alabama is they either have a very good quarterback, Bryce Young-esque. I mean, Tua in the national championship-esque, right? Yeah. Or a ridiculous running game.
Yep.
All I'm saying is if Arch Manning went there, he would be the offense.
Yeah.
You like bet your bottom dollar that Nick Saban would run the offense through him more so. Like if Trevor Lawrence went to Alabama, that offense would have been different. Saban's not a dummy.
Yeah. And how is Trevor Lawrence doing in his first year playing with
the shithole of
picks?
Jacksonville, dude? Come on. That's not fair though. Like if he was in Kansas City, he'd be just fine.
Who knows?
Do people still say
I know.
Do people still say that Arch Manning is going to be the best Manning?
I think he's going to be the most athletic Manning.
That's what, as I'm looking at this photo, I'm like, wow, do any other Mannings have those thighs?
Yeah. He's a true athlete. Keep in mind, everybody's like, oh, Peyton's nephew.
Well, actually, if you know stuff about the Mannings, Cooper was the best athlete of the 3.
And spinal stenosis, I think, is what kept him out of being a pro wide receiver.
He was a really good wide receiver at Tennessee.
I think Arch is built for this NFL.
Is he at Ole Miss?
No, he was at
Ole Miss. Yeah, and then he got hurt the year that Peyton committed, I think, and he was looking forward to playing with him, but decided Tennessee over.
Okay, so the final question is, for this story to be a success for both Arch and Texas, who, by the way, also really doesn't have any quarterback track record to speak of now that I think of it.
You mean Brady Quinn?
Stop it.
Vince Young?
Stop it.
Colt McCoy? No.
Heisman and a strong college football playoff appearance. Is that enough?
To be honest, I think that's more than enough. I think if you get a Big 12 championship berth, a Big 12 championship berth and not even winning the Big 12 championship, just because like that conference is still good. It's pretty good. And Texas is, historically the past 5-7 years have been
on the rise,
a middling type team.
I mean, they're coming back.
Major Applewhite. Wow.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of.
Yeah, we're looking at
that's
Texas
interesting for such a big school like that. Yeah,
Vince Young's really like the only.
Keep going down though. I thought they had some in like the 70s and 80s. Man, they really didn't.
It's almost like I know my stuff without having a computer in front of me.
Yeah, you're a freak. You're like a sad person.
Oh, Chris Sims.
Chris Sims, there you go.
Oh yeah, he did real well. 0-1.
A 10-2, 11-2. What do you mean?
Garrett Gilbert. Never even heard that name.
Colt McCoy was probably the best.
As far as like in the NFL?
And Case McCoy.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't know that.
His brother.
Sam Ellinger, I have some faith in him.
Stop it right now.
I'm sorry.
Stop.
Listen.
Sam Ellinger, stop it.
I like Ellinger, and if the Colts let him develop, I think he's the answer when they finally get off the aging quarterback train.
I as a fan who just wants the Colts to burn now because you said that, I hope that they do that.
Well, it'll be just another take where I'm right and Mike is afraid of winning.
Oh my God. If we actually had the counter, I'm whooping you right now.
You are not.
Yeah, I am.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
How did the NBA finals go again? Can you remind me?
You're gonna just continue to ride the one victory that you had.
It's the most recent. It's not just the one. I was right about the Wild trade.
You were not, but let's
the Wild
continue.
Get eliminated first round.
Let's get out of here. We have a holiday weekend to enjoy. We hope all of you.
Nick all weekend, folks.
Next week's show is going to be real interesting. Real interesting. We will obviously be covering what becomes of the UFC 276 card in International Fight Week. We will go over the AFC West next week, which will probably be one of the most heavily competitive divisions. Other than that, we'll be 60 some odd days till football at that point. I hope all of you enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Take some time, spend it with family members, get out in the sun and have some fun. Slack off. Don't take care of any of your responsibilities. Mike, if they want to come back to the show next week, where can they find us?
As always, guys, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon, and Twitch.
You can also find us at MCN6. It's channel
Twitter
6
too.
Here in the Twin Cities at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. Otherwise, you can download Roku and find us on the app as well. As always, we loved having you guys this week. Take care. Stay safe. Have fun.
Rocco, stop pitching Pagan.
Ow, that sounded angry.
It was.
MBC. No relation to NBC.